All right. Shalom, Yahweh Shemakatham to the brothers, and Shalom, Yahweh Shemakatham Bashim Yahweh to the sisters. I'm priest and officer of 5,000 Mataza with the ISUPK. That's the Israelite School of Universal Practical Knowledge under the commanding General Hachaanakah. We started off 125th, 1 West Harlem, New York. We're doing this since 1969. And that's bringing the truth to the so-called Blacks, Hispanic, and Native Americans. Today, we're celebrating the Feast of Hachaanakah, or Feast of Dedication. It's during the time period we rededicated the temple back to the Most High God. We're going to touch on a few scriptures, and of course, break down why we're doing these things, right? So what you got? Because contrary to what America got going on and what the holidays they got going on, what you have to understand is it's strategic. When I say strategic, everything's everything's done with an intent and a purpose. America has set their holidays on or around the time of the Most High God's high holy days. How do we know this? Passover, Easter, right? We have the Feast of Tabernacles, and usually around that time, you'll see like sometimes the feast of not feast, but the holiday Thanksgiving and stuff like that. And just like right now, we have the Feast of Dedication. And of course, right around the block, we have their holiday Christmas, right? So they set up these things to keep you from doing the things that are natural to you, the things that are profitable and beneficial to you, right? Real quick, hold what you got, but give me Leviticus chapter 23, verse 1. So what we have to understand is the Most High God has given us his high holy days, right? And it's crazy that none of the Christians, when I say Christians, those who swear their allegiance and their love for God and Yahushua, Jesus Christ, none of them keep his high holy days in the world. Contrary, what they do is they fit God into their life, right? They confine God to the rules that they want to live by. And they'll say, God knows my heart. But you have to understand, the Most High God would not have given us high holy days if we could have just picked whatever day we wanted to create a holiday on and do such, right? Right. That would make his time wasted. It would be null and void. He would not have created high holy days if he didn't want us to keep them. You see what I'm saying? Like it's profitable for us to do these things. He gave us these high holy days because it's a way to reverence him, right? A celebration unto him. But now we got people, let me select you. And make sure that you check in the comments, Salakia, moderators out there. Make sure that you check in the comments. Make sure that we are getting, answering any questions or moderating or getting people out of here that it's a bunch of noise type deal. Salakia, go ahead and read what you got.
Concert. Leviticus 23, verse 1. And the Lord spake unto Moses, saying, Speak unto the children of Israel, and say unto them, concerning the feast of the Lord, which ye shall proclaim to be holy convocations.
Right there.
Concert.
So this is God speaking to Moses, proclaim this unto Israel. Again, this is a very exclusive thing. You have to be born an Israelite. Unlike religions, they're very inclusive. Anybody can join, any nationality, any person. Doesn't matter where you come from. Religions are very, inclusive, where being born an Israelite is very exclusive. Moses is talking to the Israelites, proclaiming the Most High God's high holy days. These are holy convocations. Holy convocation means separate, right? Separate from what everybody else got going on, separate from what China got going on, separate from what Russia got going on, separate from what America got going on. These are the high holy days the Most High God requires us to keep. Now, again, the Feast of Hachaanakah is not a high holy day. Again, it's a memorial of us rededicating the temple to the Most High God. That's it in that. You can go ahead and give me Deuteronomy chapter 12, verse 30.
Concert.
Because again, we take when I say we, the world has taken a lot of things out of context and have led our people astray to believe that it's okay to live in sin and it's okay to do the things that are pleasing to us, when everything that Christ showed us was all about the putting off the flesh, disciplining the flesh, right? Because the flesh is how you jumping out here into everything and anything. Because sin feel good to the flesh,
right?
But you have to be disciplined. You have to have the magnitude and the mindset to be able to stick with it and do what's righteous, right?
Concert.
Well, go ahead and read what you got for me.
Concert. Deuteronomy 12, verse 30. Take heed to thyself, that thou be not snared by following them. After that,
It says, "Be not snared by following them." The them is the other nations. Again, we have lost our identity as a people, right? And we continually try to grasp at straws and grasp at things to self-identify, to create a reality in which we can live comfortable in. All those are forms of mental illness. Think about it. And I'm not for those who suffer from same team sports, right? They suffer with that because they're trying to create a reality in which they can live in to deal with the harm or the hurt that they went through. Because what you'll find out, a lot of these people went through some type of trauma as a child, which is why they're doing these things. They're acting out and having these certain behaviors, right? And so because their mental illness, they can't comprehend or deal with life. They have to create this alternative reality where God still loves them and they're good. And, hey, we still gotta do what's righteous, in the sight of the Most High God. We have to get over this mental illness that the world has given us, this lack of identity, right?
Right.
Because they have us doing everything that is beneficial to them. Who benefits when we keep Christmas? The heathen round about.
Right.
Their sales go up. They multi-billion-dollar companies that you don't see, they don't pour back into your communities. Who benefits when Valentine's Day come? Again, your multi-billion-dollar companies, right? Everybody's benefiting from us having a lack of identity or having a mental illness problem. And this is why we're not keeping the Feast of Hachaanakah for those who are not doing so. This is why we're here today to educate and edify our people that what we're doing here is righteous in the sight of God. What we're doing here today, this is what the Most High God requires us and wants us to do, right?
That's right.
Give me Judges 5:11 real quick, and we're gonna jump into the history of why we keep the Feast of Hachaanakah, because everything we do what's in our customs, right? We do the things that are pleasing to the Most High God. We're not out here to be men pleasers and make other people feel good, right? Because I'm telling you, they love it when they hear us. Oh, y'all keeping Christmas, but they want to gaslight us and have us thinking that that's the thing to do.
Right.
But as soon as you say, "Man, I don't keep Christmas," they get the feeling some type of way. You see the evil spirits that start to come out of them. And you think a personal preference. Everybody should have their own personal preference on what they want to do, but the world wants you to be in sin.
Right.
As soon as they hear that you're doing a righteous thing, it rubs them the wrong way, because guess what? They know their kingdom coming to an end. They know their time is not on this earth is coming to an end, right?
Concert.
Well, go ahead and read what you got for me.
Concert. Judges 5:11. They that are delivered from the noise of the archers in the places of drawing water, there shall they rehearse the righteous acts of the Lord, even the righteous acts toward the inhabitants of his villages in Israel. Then shall the people of the Lord go down to the gates.
Right. So wherever we go, wherever we've been scattered, so we're supposed to rehearse these righteous acts. Somebody had brought up the law of the land. Well, what about the law of the land? You have to understand that God's law supersedes any of your ideology or any of your ideas in regards to law of the land. What I mean by that? Who created the land? Who created the beasts and the human beings? Was it not God that created these things? So don't you think that his law would supersede and that his law will reign supreme as far as the law of the land? I hear so many people that want to find ways to be wicked, right? By saying, well, the law of the land. Well, guess what? If the law of the land says, hey, eat shrimp, crab, and lobster, the law of the land says, hey, two men can get together or two women can get together. If the law of the land says these things and God says not to do these things, if you love God, would you not follow God? Because so many people want to use the law of the land to be their out, to be their excuse of why they're wicked. Well, I'm wicked, man. I'm just following the laws of the land. Well, you have to understand something. Let's not play semantics, because guess what? If you go over to China, guess what China's going to say? China's going to say, hey, you don't have to keep any of America's laws, but you sure better keep China laws, right? If you go over to Russia, Russia's going to be like, hey, man, we don't care about China laws here. But Russia's going to be like, you better keep Russia's laws.
Right.
Well, guess what? That's the same thing America did with God's laws. America says, hey, man, you ain't got to keep God's laws, but you better make sure you keep America's laws. If you're a child of God and you about serving the Most High God, it would behoove you to then do the things that's pleasing the Most High God as far as keeping the laws.
That's right.
right? And keeping his high holy days, which is what we're doing today. So again, rehearsing the righteous acts. Go ahead and read that again from the top.
Con, sir. Judges, chapter 5, verse 11. They that are delivered from the noise of the archers in the places of drawing water, there shall they rehearse the righteous acts of the Lord.
There they shall rehearse the righteous acts of the Most High God. Go ahead, you got your Apocrypha on you?
Con, sir.
Go ahead and go to First Maccabees. And I actually want you to start in verse 10 because we're gonna get into a little history about how we got to where we're at now as far as not doing the things that's pleasing to the Most High God, right? And then kind of like, again, as far as the rededication of the temple, right? Why we had to rededicate the temple. Man, it's so deep because it's we've been doing the wrong thing for the longest, and it's all, when I say hereditary, it's not really hereditary, but we do things without questioning. We'll say, well, my grandma, well, my mama and them been doing this since. Guess what? God don't care how long your mama and them been wicked. What he do care about is if you turn away from your wicked ways and do the things that are righteous.
Right.
Just because your mama did it, just because your daddy did it, just because your uncle did it, just because the people before you did it doesn't make it right. Right? We have to use, our intellect to understand that, right? Well, go ahead, read what you got for me.
Con, sir. First Maccabees, chapter 10.
No, First Maccabees chapter 1, verse 10, Salakia. And while he gets that, we have to understand something. So the one thing that Israel continued to suffer from, right? When I say Israel as a nation, as a group of people, right? We continue to struggle with what the other nations were doing. We would call it keeping up with the Joneses, right? And when I say that, I'm talking about the wicked always kept up with what other nations were doing, right? Why do I say that? Because when we were in the wilderness, right? Think about it, when we were in the wilderness with Moses and the people were murmuring, what were they complaining about? They were complaining about going back to Egypt, right? They said it was better for us to be in Egypt, right? And then to be out here in the wilderness. Those were the wicked that were murmuring. Why were they murmuring? Just like we see in America today, we have wicked people who love America's ways. And we have to see what it is that they truly love. And the way we see that, we see it through the laws that the Most High God gave us. When God says, hey, a man and a man shouldn't be together. Why? Because the other nations are doing these things, right? A man shouldn't lay with a child. Why? Because the other nations were doing these things. And so for the wicked men of Israel, these type of things please them. They love these things that what the other nations had going. It pleased them to do these things. So they desire to be back in these nations. It's better for us to have been still in Egypt. It would have been better for us to still been in the Persian Mede captivity. It would have been better for us to stay in these captivities, because when we're in these captivities, sin reigns, wickedness reigns. When the Lord's kingdom is set up, wickedness cannot be in the same place as righteousness. So guess what? It's the wicked that are being, put away and done away with, right? So for the wicked men of Israel, it always pleased them to be joined unto another nation, because when they're joined unto another nation, they can keep the customs of those nations. They can make loose women in those nations. They could. Y'all see it in America. I don't want to go too deep because I know we got to keep things viewer friendly, but y'all understand what I'm saying. Out here paying for your woman, for a good time, out here doing these different things that are unpleasing, out here touching little kids, out here, doing things that are wicked.
Right.
But it pleases the wicked to do these things, right? So go ahead and read what you got now.
Sir. First Maccabees, chapter 1, verse 10. And there came out of them a wicked root, Antiochus, surnamed Epiphanes, son of Antiochus, the king, who had been in hostage at Rome. And he reigned in the 137th year of the kingdom of the Greeks. Verse 11. In those days went there out of Israel wicked men, who persuaded many, saying, let us go and make a covenant with the heathen that are round about us. For since we departed from them, we have had much sorrow.
Let me tell y'all something. When it comes to the Most High God's laws and his magnificent standard that He's given us, to the wicked, it's a hard thing to do. It's so hard for them to do it. It's dreadful. It's painful for them to keep the laws and statutes of the Most High God, right? That's why they're saying we've had much sorrow since we separated from the other nations. Why? Because it's dreadful for them to keep the laws and statutes of the Most High God. They're fiending. They're needing that itch scratch, right? They want to go back and join with the other nations so they can do wicked things, right? Things that are not pleasing to the body, things that are not pleasing to the Most High God. But go ahead, continue reading.
Sir. Verse 12. So this device pleased them well. Then certain of the people were so forward herein that they went to the king, who gave them license to do after the ordinances of the heathen.
Right.
Whereupon they built a place of exercise at Jerusalem, according to the customs of the heathen, and made themselves uncircumcised, and forsook the holy covenant, and joined themselves to heathen,
right,
and were sold to do mischief. Now, when the kingdom was established before Antiochus, he thought to reign over Egypt, that he might have the dominion over 2 realms.
Okay, so like, go ahead real quick. Jump down to I think it's verse 40, verse 48.
Sir.
So like, well, start in verse 40 for me. That's where I want you to start.
Sir. First Maccabees, chapter 1, verse 40. As had been her glory, so was her dishonor increased, and her excellency was turned into mourning. Moreover, King Antiochus wrote to his whole kingdom that all should be one people, and every one should leave his laws.
He should do what?
And everyone should leave his laws.
So everyone should leave his laws, right? That's what the king had wrote. He wrote letters to everybody saying, hey, we should all be one people, right? And every man should leave his laws. Go ahead and continue reading.
Sir. So all the heathen agreed according to the commandment of the king. Yea, many also of the Israelites consented to his religion.
Religion. Why? Because religion is, again, very inclusive. The first thing it says, all the heathen agreed. Then many of the Israelites consented to his religion, because religion is inclusive. Being born an Israelite, that's very exclusive. That's not everybody thing. That's not every nation. That's us, right? Go ahead, continue reading.
And sacrificed unto idols, and profaned the Sabbath. For the king had sent letters by messengers unto Jerusalem and the cities of Judah, that they should follow the strange laws of the land, and forbid burnt offerings and sacrifice, and drink offerings in the temple, and that they should profane the Sabbaths and festival days.
Right there. And profane the Sabbath and the feast days, which is why none of us keep the feast days today, because we were commanded a long time ago during the Greek captivity to do away with our laws, profane the Sabbath, which means don't keep the Sabbath anymore, and to do away with our feast days. And that's the same thing the Christian church pushes today. Hey, the law's been done away with. You ain't got to worry about that. But yet the church put up Christmas trees. They do St. Patrick's Day. They do Fall Festival, right? They do all these holidays. But I thought the church was supposed to be separate from the world. You start to understand that the church is actually part of the world. It was a device used as a snare for you, right? So-called black man, Hispanic man, Native American man. We see here that it was a commandment for us not to do these things, right? Go ahead and continue reading.
Sir. And pollute the sanctuary and holy people, set up altars and groves and chapels of idols, and sacrifice swine flesh and unclean beast.
Right there. So
Sir.
right there, we see that we have polluted the sanctuary. The sanctuary we have been polluted. We're in here cutting up swine's flesh and all the other things that we shouldn't be doing because it's a commandment that's been given to us. So now we've defiled the temple, right? And this through the commandment of the king, right? A wicked man, right? Go ahead and jump to First Maccabees chapter 4, and we're gonna go ahead and get starting verse 52.
Sir.
Because now we're gonna get into the spot where we did again rededicate the temple, how we were able to claim it back and have victory over our oppressors at that time, right? And get the temple back and clean it and do those things most rededicate to the Most High God after we cleaned it. And you'll see when I say clean, they technically didn't clean it because what we did, we actually replaced every stone. We didn't say, oh, let me clean up this pig's blood and this abomination blood, and then we good to go. No, we had such a zeal about what we did that we understood it was taking things off and putting some things away, right? Because sometimes what we see in the world, some people put on the mask and pretend to be something that they're not. What I mean by that, they'll try to cover up, right? They haven't fully done this process of disciplining themselves and putting things off. They'll put on the mask and say, well, I just covered it up. Nobody knows about it, but they're still struggling with it, right?
Right.
Or they'll do things in secret because they're still struggling with the flesh, right? But go ahead, start off where you at.
Sir. First Maccabees chapter 4, verse 52. Now, on the 25th day of the 9th month, which is called the month of Caslu, in the 148th year, they rose up betimes in the morning and offered sacrifice according to the law upon the new altar of burnt offerings, which they had made. Look at what time and what day the heathen had profaned it. Even that was it dedicated with songs and citherns and harps and cymbals.
Okay, so that's what we're gonna do. We're gonna jump. We're gonna go ahead and start the beginning of chapter 4, verse 1.
Sir.
Because I want to be able to paint the picture of what was going on in that temple and how wicked these heathen were. Defiling our temple and defiling our God, right, and causing us to defile ourselves. Go ahead.
Sir. First Maccabees chapter 4, verse 1. Then took Gorgias 5,000 footmen and 1,000 of the best horsemen, and removed out of the camp by night, to the end he might rush in upon the camp of the Jews and smite them suddenly. And the men of the fortress were his guides. Now when Judas heard thereof, he himself removed, and the valiant men with him, that he might smite the king's army which was at Emmaus, while as yet the forces were dispersed from the camp. In the mean season came Gorgias by night into the camp of Judas, and when he found no man there, he sought them in the mountains, for said he, these fellows flee from us. But as soon as it was day, Judas shewed himself in the plain with 3,000 men, who nevertheless had neither armor nor swords to their minds. And they saw the camp of the heathen, that it was strong and well harnessed, and compassed round about with horsemen, and these were expert at war. Then said Judas to the men that were with him, fear ye not their multitude, neither be ye afraid of their assault. Remember how our fathers were delivered in the Red Sea, when Pharaoh pursued them with an army.
Pause right there.
Sir.
So we see kind of what he pointed out. He says, as they encompass the heathen, he said, remember our fathers, right? And how they were delivered from the Red Sea. It shows you the power of knowing who you are, right? Having your identity and understanding the things that pertain to you. Because right now, so-called Blacks, Hispanic, and Native Americans can't say, remember how our fathers, because we're lost, we're destroyed. And if we do say, remember how our fathers, the only thing we say is, remember how our fathers were slaves. Remember how our ancestors were slaves. Remember how our ancestors got defeated. Remember how our ancestors were mishandled by the heathen around the belt? Because that's the only history they've given us. There's nothing to be proud of from the aspect of the history that America teaches. When we start remembering our fathers, all of our fathers were enslaved. All of our fathers were destroyed.
Right.
We no longer obtain the tongue or the language that we spoke, our natural language, right? But when you start to identify with our father, when I say our father, you know who you are, and you know your father is Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. Well, that has a different meaning and a different power about it, right? Because now when you say, remember how the Lord delivered our people. That's what you have some power, because your power is the Most High God. But as long as you look at the history of America, the world is giving us, we can say, look at our history, and our history is just us as slaves. We had no power from the aspect of what they teach. So we've always been a weak, inferior nation of people who never had the strength and the know-how to stand up and overcome oppression and adversity, right? But in the Bible, we had all the power. When we tie ourselves back to our nationality and who we really are, well, we start to realize that we're boy, I'm over here stuttering. Yarashayala, which means Prince of the Power, right? You have to understand that we are God's chosen people, so-called black man, Hispanic man, and Native American man.
That's right.
Go ahead and continue reading what you got.
Concert. Continuation. Verse 10. Now, therefore, let us cry unto heaven. If peradventure the Lord will have mercy upon us and remember the covenant of our fathers and destroy this host before our face this day, that so all the heathen may know that there is one who delivereth and saveth Israel.
Most High in Christ and saveth Israel, right? Go ahead, continue reading.
Concert. Then the strangers lifted up their eyes and saw them coming over against them. Wherefore they went out of the camp to battle, but they that were with Judas sounded their trumpets. So they joined battle, and the heathen, being discomfited, fled into the plain. Howbeit all the hindmost of them were slain with the sword, for they pursued them into Gazara, and into the plains of Idumea, and Azotus, and Jamnia, so that there were slain of them upon 3,000 men. This done, Judas returned again with his host from pursuing them, and said to the people, be not greedy of the spoils, inasmuch as there is a battle before us. And Gorgias and his host are here by us in the mountain. But stand ye now against our enemies, and overcome them. And after this, ye may boldly take the spoils. As right. Judas.
That's good.
Concept.
So again, just showing how we were a warlike nation, how we were strong as long as we did the things that were pleasing the Most High God. You see, they said one thing that Israel always did. We always went to the Lord before we did anything. And by the way we did that, we went to a prophet. The prophet would tell us, hey man, is God with us? Is he with us? Or he not with us? Because if he's not with us, we're not rolling. Because that's how God-fearing we were. If God wasn't rolling with us, when we hit the block, we wasn't going.
Right.
We needed to know that the Most High God was riding with us. They said, yo, the Lord be with us. If he remember the covenant that he made with our fathers, right? And to destroy this nation from before us. They right there, they're putting all the glory on the Most High God. They saying God gonna deliver us, right? Because they understand it is God, it is the Most High God that delivereth and saveth Israel. This is what the world don't want you to understand, so-called black man, Hispanic man, Native American man. You can't begin to use the power that you have as long as you in his mind frame of being, well, I'm Hispanic, well, I'm indigenous, I'm Native American, oh, I'm black, I'm a Negro. All these bywords separate you from your true identity. You see the power in the words and how he spoke versus how we speak? Because when we speak, the only time we speak anything courageous is about hurting one another. We don't have that same energy when it comes to dealing with another nation, another set of people.
Right.
Right? But again, they fought valiantly and one. The waters of the Most High God. Real quick, go ahead and jump down to verse 29 for me.
Concert.
Actually, start at verse 28 and then read from there.
Concert.
Go ahead.
First Maccabees, chapter 4, verse 28. The next year, therefore, following, Lysias gathered together 70,000 choice men of foot and 5,000 horsemen, that he might subdue them. So they came into Idumea and pitched their tents at Besura. And Judas met them with 10,000 men. And when he saw that mighty army, he prayed and said, Blessed art thou, O Savior of Israel, who didst quell the violence of the mighty man by the band of thy servant David, and gavest the host of strangers unto the hands of Jonathan, the son of Saul, and his armor bearer. Shut up his army in the hand of thy people Israel, and let them be confounded in their power and horsemen. Make them be of the no courage, and cause the boldness of their strength to fall away, and let them quake at their destruction. Cast them down with the sword of them that love thee, and let all those that know thy name praise thee with thanksgiving. So they joined battle, and there were slain of the host of Lysias about 5,000 men. Even before them were slain, before them they slain. Now when Lysias saw his army put to flight, and the manliness of Judas' soldiers, and how they were ready either to live or die valiantly, he went into Antiochia and gathered together a company of strangers. And having made his army greater than it was, he proposed to come again into Judea. Then said Judas and his brother, Behold, our enemies are discomfited. Let us go up to cleanse and dedicate the sanctuary. Upon this, all the host assembled themselves together and went up into the Mount Sion. And when they saw the sanctuary desolate, and their altar profaned, and the gates burned up, and shrubs growing in the courts, as in a forest, or in one of the mountains, yea, and the priest chambers pulled down, they rent their clothes and made great lamentation, and cast ashes upon their heads, and fell down flat to the ground upon their faces, and blew an alarm with the trumpets, and cried toward heaven.
Oh, I was right there.
Concert.
So you see how men moved in, as far as when they saw the temple in the cases it was being defiled, being desolate, shrubs growing, the priest chambers being torn down. They rent their clothes and they began to pray, and then they cried and they wept. Right? They wept because they understood, what it meant. It was a shameful thing for our temple to be defiled like that, and to be left desolate like that. That's a shameful thing. Right?
Right.
Go ahead, continue reading.
Concert. Verse 41, continuation. Then Judas appointed certain men to fight against those that were in the fortress, until he had cleansed the sanctuary. So he chose priests of blameless conversation, such as had pleasure in the law.
They had pleasure in what?
Such as had pleasure in the law.
Right there. So it says, verse 42, it says he chose priests of blameless conversation. Because what you start to realize is a lot of things that we talk about, and a lot of things that we got going on was taught to us and indoctrinated into us by the world. A lot of the conversations that we speak are not profitable. Right? It doesn't provoke anybody to do good deeds. Or if we're reading the scriptures and we're doing things that are pleasing to the Most High God, those are good conversations, and those conversations provoke men to do good deeds, righteous deeds.
Concert.
Right? When all the world keep telling you is steal a, get a, rob, steal, and conversations is not, profitable. So he's saying, it's just showing you that, again, to have a good conversation, that conversation is usually around doing things that's righteous. What I mean by that, conversation about working, man. I can really clean that up real good. And thus said the Lord, I can, stuff like that. Conversations that provoke other men to good works.
Right.
Go ahead and continue reading.
Concert. Verse 43, continuation. Who cleansed the sanctuary and bear out the defiled stones into an unclean place. And when as they consulted what to do with the altar of burnt offerings, which was profaned, they thought it best to pull it down, lest it should be a reproach to them, because the heathen had defiled it. Wherefore they pulled it down and laid up the stones in the mountain of the temple in a convenient place, until there should come a prophet to shew what should be done with them. Then they took whole stones according to the law and built a new altar according to the former.
They did what?
And built a new altar according to the former.
And built a new altar, right?
Concert.
Most High in Christ. Go ahead and continue reading.
Concert. Verse 48, continuation. And made up the sanctuary and the things that were within the temple, and hallowed the courts, that they made also new holy vessels, and into the temple they brought the candlestick and the altar of burnt offerings, and of incense, and the table. And upon the altar they burned incense, and the lamps that were upon the candlestick they lighted, that they might give light in the temple. Furthermore, they set the loaves upon the table, and spread out the veils, and finished all the works which they had begun to make. Now on the 25th day of the 9th month, which is called the month of Caslu, in the 148th year, they rose up betimes in the morning and offered sacrifice according to the law upon the new altar of the burnt offerings.
Oh, right there.
Concert.
So right there, it says now on the 5 and 20th day of the 9th month. Now I'm gonna help you all out, because when I say help you all out, the blacks, so-called Blacks, Hispanic, and Native Americans, you have to understand, contrary to what America says, that the new year starts in January. That's false. It doesn't make sense for the new year to start in the middle of dead winter, right? The new year actually starts, end of March, beginning of April, which is why we have our Feast of Purim. We have our, Passover during that time. So if you count from April to December, you'll see that that's the 9th month, right? And the 5th and 20th day, 25th day, what do they have on the 25th day here in America?
Christmas.
They have Christmas, right?
Right.
See what I'm talking about? How they try to place their holidays on top of the things that we got and how we move, right? So in the 9th month of the 25th day, right? Go ahead, continue reading.
Which they had made. Verse 54, look at what time and what day this heathen had profaned it, even that was it dedicated with songs and citherns and harps and cymbals. Verse 55, then all the people fell upon their faces, worshiping and praising the God of heaven, who had given them good success. And so they kept the dedication of the altar 8 days, and offered burnt offerings with gladness, and sacrificed the sacrifice of deliverance and praise. They decked also the forefront of the temple with crowns of gold, and with shields and gates, and the chambers they renewed, and hanged doors upon them. Thus was there very great gladness among the people, for that the reproach of the heathen was put away. Moreover, Judas and his brethren with the whole congregation of Israel ordained that the days of the dedication of the altar should be kept in their season from year to year, by the space of 8 days, from the 25th day of the month of Caslu, with mirth and gladness. At that time also they builded up the Mount Zion with high walls and strong towers round about, lest the Gentiles should come and tread it down, as they had done before. And they set there a garrison to keep it, and fortified Bethsura to preserve it, that the people might have a defense against Idumea.
Idumea, is the place of Edom. Edom is a progenitor of the Caucasian race. So if you start looking at your history, so-called black man, Hispanic man, Native American man, you start to realize that Idumea, Edom, Caucasian man. We look at where we are now here in America. Who's ruling over us? Who's dictated and indoctrinated us with all these wicked holidays to ensure that the same thing that the wicked man Antiochus wanted, that all people be one people, right? All under one religion, right? Is what they are trying to attempt, right? Same people, different place. We dealing with the same people, different place. The only difference is now we don't know who we are, so we don't have the same gumptions to understand that we have to return to keep these magnificent standards and praise the Most High God that He delivers us, right? The same way He delivered our forefathers, the same way He delivered Judas and his company, right? That they were able to rededicate the temple. Now we have to understand something because it's still the same. We look at it like, well, we don't have a temple anymore. Well, that's not the case, right? Because now we're the temple, right? And so now you start to understand why the world wants you to eat shrimp, crab, and lobsters. Why they call it a delicacy. Why they want you to be out here big kicking it. Why they want you out here doing all the things that's not pleasing to the Most High God, because you are the temple. Just like they desired to defile the temple in the old days when the temple was here, it's the same. They want to defile your temple. Right. They want to keep you in sin. Just like he was reading earlier, how wicked men approved of this. Those wicked men, I'm going to go ahead and spoiler alert. Those wicked men are anybody who joined themselves unto this nation. So your Jay-Z's, your LeBron James, all these people out here making millions to sell you alive. They are the wicked men of Israel who want to benefit from this world. How do we know that? But we look at every one of our forefathers who were righteous. They actually stepped down. They removed themselves of the world to be closer to the Most High God. Moses, who was the prince of Egypt, right? He stepped down to be with his brothers and sisters, and then led them out. It led them out of captivity, right? You look at when Yahushua came. You look at what Matthew and a few of the brothers were doing. One was a fisherman. One was a tax collector. We got tax collectors now. Guess what he did? He stepped down. He didn't continue to tax his brothers and work against what was going on as far as building the kingdom. He stepped down. Right. We have too many people thinking that the route to helping our people out is becoming rich and joining themselves into the world. Guess what? Joining yourself into the world is not how you're going to benefit or help your people out. Right. The way you're going to help your people out is by stepping down, searching for the things that are righteous, right, and not defile yourself. Salak, let me get this precept. I think it's in 1 Corinthians. 1 Corinthians chapter 3, verse 17. Real quick. Actually, start in verse 16 for me. Because we have to understand we are the temple of God now. And when we start to defile ourselves, just like the temple was destroyed when it was defiled the previous time, same thing here. We continue to be wicked. We continue to be, in sin. Where the wages of sin is death. The world wants you to be in sin. Right? You got that for me?
Concept.
Go ahead and read it. So we can have the understanding that we are now the temple, right? That God resides in. Go ahead.
1 Corinthians 3, chapter 16. Know ye not that ye are the temple of God, and that the Spirit of God dwelleth in you?
And the what?
And the Spirit of God dwelleth in you.
And the Spirit of God dwelleth in you. Now, the Spirit is the word of God. When I say the word is when it's like this. If I pour, just real quick, some analogy. If I pour orange juice into a cup, I don't expect to get strawberry juice or lemon juice, right? But what happens is when we have the Spirit of God in us, that's all we can have is we should be full at the time. If you try to mix Islam, God, the world, well, guess what? You no longer have that substance. It's no longer the same thing. So we have the Spirit of God in us, but as soon as we start trying to add other things, well, guess what? You no longer have the Spirit of God in you. It's equivalent to somebody, if somebody took 99% of the truth and gave you 1% lie, Is it still the truth? No, the whole thing now becomes 100% lie. Just because you had that 1% lie, the whole entire thing's a lie. Doesn't matter how much truth is in there. Same thing. We cannot sit at the the table of the Lord and sit at the table of devils. We can't have it both ways. We can't be lukewarm. So either you have the Spirit of God and you do those things and you speak those things, or you have the spirit of the world where you come out here, you talking about Mr. Stillum and looking at other men's wives and setting up the next hit at who you gonna rob or who you gonna unalive. Those are words of the world. But if you have the words of the Spirit of God in you, well, you're gonna be talking, provoking men to good works and doing the righteous things, right? Go ahead and continue reading.
Come on, sir. Verse 17, continuation. If any man defile the temple of God, him shall God destroy.
Who should destroy him?
Him shall God destroy.
Him shall God destroy. Go ahead, continue reading.
Concert. For the temple of God is holy.
The temple of God is holy, which means separate. This is why Zephaniah 2:1. Gather yourself together, O nation not desired. Separate from the heathen round about. Where have we seen this before? Everywhere in the Bible, the Most High God has separated us from the men around about, from the heathen round about. The Most High God set the boundaries on the earth, right?
Right.
That the world is trying to skew over, and we're all one nation. No, Most High God set the boundaries. The Most High God selected a people to be His people, right?
Right.
Holy means to be separate. When God told Abraham to leave, separate yourself, Abraham didn't go a block down and say, man, this should be good enough. Abraham didn't walk down the street like, I think God's talking about he just want me over here. No, Abraham separated. Because if you look at the Bible, Abraham was a Chaldean. The next time the Chaldeans saw the lineage of Abraham, they saw a different nation of people. People with different mannerisms, with a magnificent standard.
Right.
And what the world saw was an enemy. Right?
Concert.
So we're the temple of the Most High God, and the world is constantly trying to defile us, constantly trying to tempt us. Right? You can't get on social media. You can't watch TV without some heinous acts or heinous things being done. You can't set your kids in front of TV and leave them alone because there's going to be two cartoon kids on there holding hands and kissing. Right? Constantly trying to push ways to defile us and keep us unrighteous and keep us in wickedness. But we have to do exactly what Judas and them did, right? They rededicated the temple. That's what it means to repent and have remission of sins. We were sinful. We all sin, right? But when we repent and have remission of sins, right? At that point, we're born a new creature in Christ, and at that point, we rededicate ourselves to the Most High God, and at that point, we strive to be holy.
Right.
We strive to keep the temple clean. We strive to not defile the temple, right? Because the temple belongs to the Most High God. We're gonna go ahead and get it. 1 Corinthians chapter 6, verse 19. You have to understand. What's that thing they be always saying? It's my body. The whole
My body, my choice.
Yeah, my body, my choice, and all this stuff, and all these different things. And people saying I'm my own God, and can't nobody tell me what to do. And you have to understand. You were created. There is a creator.
Right.
And you belong to someone. Right? Go ahead and read what you got.
Concert. 1 Corinthians chapter 6, verse 19. What? Know ye not that your body is the temple of the Holy Ghost, which is in you, which ye have of God, and ye are not your own.
And ye are not what?
And ye are not your own.
And ye are not your own. So pretty much what we're trying to this is what this whole feast is in regards to, is a rededication of the temples of the Most High God. We have to also understand that we also have to rededicate ourselves to the Most High God, right?
Right.
And uphold and keep his magnificent standard going by rehearsing these righteous acts wherever you are, right? Doesn't matter if you're in Puerto Rico, it doesn't matter if you're in Hades, it doesn't matter if you're in Guatemala. If you are an Israelite, these are the things that are profitable to you and the things that you must be doing, right?
Concert.
With that being said, it does conclude my class. Let me go ahead and switch out. Shalom. Yahweh Shem Yahweh to the brothers. Shalom. Yahweh Shem Yahweh to the sisters.